Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis news from November 11th to the 17th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the US cannabis industry, identify top US MSOs that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth way more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps, and take advantage whenever you feel ready, if you wish to do so, of course, pending whatever incremental reform we're supposed to get from now until 2024. But as someone who's had skin in the game and watched it happen in 2018 and 2020, a lot of wealth is created when that flip switches, and so you might as well learn how to take advantage to help yourself, your family, and your community going forward. That being said, 3rd December in a row, expecting something maybe out of Shmuck, and yet again, we are so far disappointed. Now, obviously, there's still half of December left, but good summary from Chris here to keep the moods high, as nice little ramp up into the close despite a tough few weeks. Adding, it will be interesting to see if big money starts to front run Q1 2024 DEA, unless we get a surprise announcement, but again, we're not holding our breaths for that. Also, Germany legalization vote Q1, if they stick to their word, which they haven't thus far, so really no reason to believe this actually gets done then. But something about April 20th, 2024 does seem to have a bit of a ring to it, I think. And so, better to see this close to end this week off than not, right? And folks, wanted to share this from Todd Beacon on US Cannabis. December is not do or die, so weakness should be bought. But gotta love Tara Norman's obvious question that we're all thinking down here, but why don't they just do it? What are they waiting for, right? That's the most annoying thing. It's out of our control. Still a when not if scenario, I believe, but ultimately more here if you just wanted a bit more reassurance based on the uncharted territory and rocky waters that we've been sailing through these last few years, I should say. But with that, wanted to share this as the long investor shared this data point from Fintel.io. Airbnb institutional ownership continues to grow. But who cares about Airbnb when you got the same data on MSOS? So thank you, Matt, for sharing this one. Sources Fintel.io, a site that I'm not very familiar with, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, hey, if it's true, which it looks to be, while the price has been going down and at least being held down, whether artificially or not, institutions have been loading up. And so this is what we want to see. Makes 2024 look very bright. And again, don't sell if you don't need to. While we get into some state sales data, Maryland cannabis sales keep growing. Flower was the most popular product category. And so November saw adult use sales of 55.9 million for a total of 89.6 with medical. And so this is for November, down a little bit from October's 89.9 million. September's 90.7 million and August's 91.7 million. However, we know that December's are usually big months, so we should see a new record there for Maryland, so we love to see that. Well, we got this one from connoisseurs.io. Connecticut cannabis sales, including November 2023, up over about 800K. November, 25.6 million versus 24.86 million in October. So read it and weep, and we imagine December is going to be much bigger as people choose more cannabis than alcohol over the holidays. And so with that, AZ cannabis sales passed 1 billion for 2023. And the most recent data we have is September, which saw 78 million in adult use sales, while August saw 79.4 million, which were up from July, but apparently June saw the highest number. All that to say, they passed the billion mark 2 months ago, written in December as of the 11th, so that would likely be October. So love to see Arizona seeing some of those numbers bounce back in a tougher western state where there's a lot of illicit cannabis likely. While this last one from Todd Harrison, this one is behind a paywall, so I couldn't really dig into it, unfortunately. But rookie numbers from New Jersey is they recorded just 206 million in Q3 cannabis sales because they don't open enough stores. And so as they open more, they will see more success, and hopefully they do that sooner than later. But with that, on to some good data that when you end prohibition, life gets better for marijuana moment. State cannabis legalization has not really impacted teen use. Federal officials say as new youth survey shows stable trends. Again, more data to shut the prohibitionists up. We love to see it. And so this 2022 Monitoring the Future survey, which is conducted by the University of Michigan, funded with federal money, again, from the NIDA, found that rates of past cannabis year use remained stable for all 3 grades surveyed, remaining below pre-pandemic usage levels even as more state markets open up and expanded for adult use. Boom. Legal cannabis makes it harder for youth to get. And so, bit of a graphic here. Love to see, again, more definitive data to shut the prohibitionists up. And so more on this link if you wanted to read that in the comments. Well, this one from Mark Landers, thank you. The New England Journal of Medicine looking at cannabis-related disorders something probably worth reevaluating the legitimacy of in itself at this point, and toxic effects. But love the findings here, and so I appreciate him pasting this because the article is basically a paywall and you can't see anything besides just the title. All that to point out, about 2/3 of persons giving a diagnosis of cannabis use disorder have at least one other current substance use disorder, most commonly alcohol and tobacco. It's like, oh shit, well, are doctors doing a terrible job trying to create something new called cannabis use disorder and failing to address another major addiction that someone has? Because that's obviously helpful to know and not ideal to find out at this point in time when, again, cannabis use disorder arguably isn't a thing. You can pause to read the rest as, again, more interesting findings, but I'm just going to focus on some of the more important snippets or interesting ones. As cannabis intoxication is usually mild and self-limited. Most persons with cannabis intoxication never come to medical attention. Yeah, no, we just go to bed and then wake up and start over the next day. But get this, a person or a family or personal history of psychotic symptoms is associated with an increased risk of psychotic symptoms during cannabis intoxication. So they say. But the annual incidence of adults with cannabis-induced psychosis who come to medical attention is about 3 to 6 per 100,000. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just seems like a very, very small number. And again, not a high risk of really increasing if you end prohibition. So correct me if I'm wrong or let me know what you think in the comments. But we love more studies like this highlighting that there's usually a deeper root problem that's not being addressed, and it's just not so easy to blame things on cannabis. And so that link will be in the comments. But with that, we got one as Marijuana Moment shares, states that ban cannabis may unintentionally promote unregulated Delta-8 THC products, federally funded study finds. And this seems to be true. Obviously, I'm not in the States, so I can't attest to this, but it does seem to be that cannabis is legal in large parts of the country, but it's not the real cannabis that's necessarily the medicine, but it's a cannabis derived from hemp, using like a large amount of hemp to create, you know, what a nug of flower might create in terms of THC. But again, that's not real THC. So I've never tried this type of THC. Can you let me know in the comments if you have tried it? I imagine it's not great, and that's why people prefer the plant than the synthetic crap. But I had someone comment on my Twitter the other day saying that Trump legalized weed in 2018, and like, this workaround, technically he did, especially when we get to this next story. And so again, more if you wanted to read about this study from the JAMA network that released this, link in the comments. But all that to say is, in some ways, he's kind of not wrong, because we're seeing this in Minnesota, and now Chicago liquor stores are selling THC-infused drinks, and obviously Chicago is a place where cannabis is legal, so we cannot get legal THC-infused drinks with THC derived from the actual plant, unfortunately. But throughout America, it seems to be the case that you can get these THC-infused drinks from the synthetic Delta-8, which is, again, not THC. And sadly, that loophole has just made so many things more and more confusing. And so just wanted to share this as sort of a evidence of that fact. Now, obviously, we just want to see cannabis descheduled to give us the plant back, and we know the government knows that cannabis is a very powerful medicine, and they don't want to do that, hence why they're not going to deschedule, and we're likely going from 1 to 3. But all that to say is the intrigue. Wink has been around since 2021, but it's had a hard time cashing in at local dispensaries, because using the actual plants-derived THC would still be fucking illegal, because cannabis is illegal at the federal level. The actual plant is what's stuck illegal. Now we've got all this horseshit running around pretending to be THC. It's bonkers. So the company reformulated its drinks to use hemp-derived synthetic Delta-8 THC. And again, I've never tried that. I don't know the effects, but I can't imagine it's as good as what the plant is. So again, let me know in the comments if you've tried it. What makes it legal to sell in liquor stores under this farm bill? And so, fuck that, man, because it's just not the plant. What do we do at this point? It's just... Again, change the name to cannabis, deschedule, and all this solved. Hemp and cannabis are different types of cannabis. Both have the active ingredient THC. Well, again, the cannabis medicinal plant has the real THC, the compound that gets users high, but hemp has much less THC than cannabis, leading to its declassification, right? But get this, it takes a hay bale of hemp biomass to extract the same amount of THC, whereas it would take a single cannabis plant for a dispensary. And so this seems to be the case, though, right? So in a way, cannabis, sure, it is legal in a lot of states. So what incentive do they have to actually change their laws then if this is running around rampant? So I'm just thinking out loud, folks, but we're getting to an even rockier place. But is Schedule 3 still coming? I want to believe it. My money's on the line. But with that, more reason to end fucking prohibition outright and get rid of that federal overhang, because less government is more. Tax Foundation, a budding industry. Over 40% of states now tax rec cannabis, and the revenue potential is substantial. Now, here's the thing. We don't want the government taxing us at all if they're misusing our resources like they are right now, right? That's the other main thing. And so while the government goes off the rails, we want less and less of our tax dollars being taken. And the reality is they fucking unfortunately tax the shit out of this industry, and they use it as a tool to screw us, unfortunately. States collected nearly $3 billion in cannabis tax revenue last year regardless, and a nationwide legalization could generate $8.5 billion annually for all states. Now again, if these resources are going to the right places, like we're seeing some states allocate that on the ground level, which we love to see. And I'm sure though some are not going to the right places, as we'll also see from someone in Massachusetts for the control board, or 2 people having to get fired. All that to say, there are always good actors and bad actors, but clearly ending cannabis prohibition speaks for itself. And so this is the actual study from the Tax Foundation as of December 14th. That will be in the comments as well. But a few other things to highlight. Just the reality is that these MSOs are still working for the federal government and not us, the shareholders, yet, which is really fucked up, right? So thank you, Sarah Stewart, for this important infographic that speaks volumes, because if any other industry faced the discrimination that the cannabis industry faced, there would be outrage, there'd be change, and they'd likely go to business. And so from Seth Yakatan for making this graphic, it's a great one, highlighting what all these companies get to keep after taxes because they don't pay 280E in the blue bar here. And essentially, if they had to pay 280E, what they would get to keep afterwards, highlighting that, yeah, they'd struggle just as much as these MSOs. Yet, the state-led growth story chugs on with both hands tied behind their backs. They don't give a fuck, and that's what I'm here for the day 280E goes away and these companies finally get the justice they deserve for changing the status quo for the better and providing a safer, non-addictive alternative and saving lives from the opiate epidemic. And so with that, all these MSOs, what they keep after taxes now in the gray bar, but what they will keep once we get that amazing announcement of hopefully Schedule 3. And while that form was redacted for no apparent reason, there's more later that we'll get to that highlights why many lawyers and professionals still think the Schedule 3 announcement is imminent. Maybe not this year end, but until April. And so with that, another example of why ending cannabis prohibition is more beneficial for society than not, because alcohol sales in Canada continue to go down while cannabis sales continue to go up, as it's a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative that we can just choose as opposed to, you know, facilitating more alcoholism. And so for the longest time in Canada, or at least in my province, Ontario, we've only had government-run alcohol stores. But now they're so desperate that they're going to start putting them in every local convenience store. So again, great for convenience, but certainly not great for alcoholism. Back to the US for a prime example of this predatory tax rate. And so from Sammy J, who works for C21 Investments, which I believe is an investment firm that works with plant-touching companies, get this. Effective tax rate for Q3, 274%. So you've got to make 300% in order to keep about 26% profit. Can't make this shit up. 285% for the full year. Obviously, all these companies need 280E repealed badly, but do we really think it's ever going to happen based on the Dems fleecing the whole industry and all of us thus far with their lies? And all they've succeeded at doing is probably building a more thriving illicit market that, who knows, but speculating that the CIA probably makes a good amount of money from, probably the DEA too, and then taxing the legal cannabis industry at a tax rate so disgusting that it ought to be illegal. So add up a 50% sales tax and you can see the Dems only want legal cannabis so they can milk it dry, and wonder why they drag their feet on federal reform. And that is also to highlight the fact that it's a 3rd December. No talk of even safer being in the NDAA this year. They do not give a fuck. It's all vote pandering. The Dems, probably the Republicans too, they hate us, sadly. And I don't know what the solution to that is at this point, because I don't know if voting really matters or not. But another example, at least some criminals are being held accountable for number of dispensary robberies. This one is in Denver alone. But we know that SAFE has had the votes for how long and could have been passed. And while it's nice to see some people held accountable for 780,000 in crime, had SAFE been passed 3 years ago, a lot of lives would have been saved and a lot of businesses wouldn't be harmed. Now, all that to say is, what's been done in the Senate lately? Hey, can we think of anything useful? And sure enough, it's some Democratic intern. And I mean, could we expect anything less at this point? I'm sure some of you have heard the news, some of you might not have, but, and oddly enough, this website, which seems to be a supportive source of this, looks shockingly a lot like Marijuana Moment. I am just going to point that out. But U.S. Senate staffer filmed in the Senate hearing room denies allegations. And get this, which is the funniest part. The staffer later issued a statement on LinkedIn that appeared to deny the allegations. Dude, this has been a difficult time for me. Don't try and play the victim here, as I've been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. It's like, no, dude. This government building is no place for porn. have some fucking self-respecting dignity for yourself and everyone around you. That's what it's about. So anyways, fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, I'm not done. So this is another... I'm sorry, but I have to mix some humor into these videos. Otherwise, I can't even make them anymore because I just drive myself nuts. And if you're tired of seeing your tax dollars fill in the wrong holes, then close your eyes for this one because my God. Now, I saw this video yesterday and couldn't believe it. It's like Hunger Games 5 years out. It's terrifying. But all that to say, this came across my page this morning and I wanted to try and tie this in. And so this is a video of apparently a guy that breaks these videos down. I haven't watched that part yet, but I'm going to play a clip just so that you can get a taste. But I mean, I'm sure if you've seen this, you're just distraught and disappointed already. But this is what your tax dollars went to for a Christmas video apparently this past year. Fuck. It's so weird.
So, of course...
So, apparently he's hilarious and worth watching, so that link will be in the comments. I'm going to watch that later today, because I haven't yet. And so, just more along this line, we got this announcement, when was it, December 15th? Apparently the FBI sent this out to all employees, like, come on. It's got to stop infecting the military and some of these really important agencies that we need to, like, keep their sanity. Because at the end of the day, all it leads to is allowing more degeneracy, because at the bottom of it all, it's anti-God, anti-family, and anti-human. And so we need less of this. And so if you need an explanation, I mean, if you don't know who Thomas Sowell is, he is an American legend and hero, one of the smartest, I would say, intellectuals, real intellectuals alive today still. Quite underrated. But how did we get here? Well, ours may become the first civilization destroyed not by the power of our enemies, but by the ignorance of our teachers and the dangerous nonsense they are teaching our children. In an age of artificial intelligence, they are creating artificial stupidity. And if you've never heard of the term ideological subversion before, look it up. And if only the Dems put Thomas Sowell on a pedestal like they should, shit wouldn't be like this. But with that, highlighting lastly that the DEA can act whenever they want, right? And so it's just even more frustrating that that letter comes out redacted, and then we see the DEA doing all this stuff, placing all these artificial cannabinoids in temporary Schedule 1, yet they cannot, you know, come back with their response to the HHS announcement. And so, hey, regardless, time's on our side, folks. Not trying to make anyone scared, but just trying to highlight the stupidity and keep a sense of humor through all of this. And so with that, from the Dales Report, oh yes, we get to the goods now, because we had to go through some shenanigans and some laughs to get to essentially who knows what's going on. Boris would know more than most, and what does Boris have to say as of December 14th? So let's listen to it. This is an interview. Executive Chair shares his views on the trajectory of the DEA rescheduling as it pertains to the HHS Freedom of Information Act documents recently made public. The hopeful news: a lot of smart people continue to believe Schedule 3 is going to happen. It's a matter of when, not if, so they say, but...
So this is an important thing, and I think it's something that I think Washington's understanding they can't keep going with this discriminatory. There's lawsuits being filed. There's frustration at the state level. So I think this happens, but I don't think they're going to rush it because I think they want to do it right. But the one good piece of news is that all of our lawyers, that we have extensive amounts working on this in D.C.
Yeah.
After the Freedom of Information Act came out, you know, the document about the HHS document, came back to us 4 or 5 days later after reviewing it. Now, obviously, a lot was redacted, but it came back to us and said that what wasn't redacted is certainly showing that the federal government is moving towards Schedule 3. So that's the really, really good news that we got. Again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a regulator. I'm just paraphrasing what they told me. I got like 4 calls late Friday night after markets closed from all the people that we have working for us on this. They all came back with this absolutely the same view.
And so, hey, fair enough, but I do want to give a shout out to Sabatino's comment down here because I think it holds some weight. Most critics and trolls always point to Boris's mispredictions, as he's talked about Germany, say, removing cannabis from their narcotics list January 1, if they kept their word and actually voted, yet they didn't, right? So you can't control that, Boris being wrong there. He did get New York thingy right most recently, and when they pulled Cura's adult license in New Jersey, he did clearly state they get it back real quick. Now, as far as Schedule 3 goes, nobody knows except for corrupt few bureaucrats, but at the same time, if this is coming from lawyers, supposed to be reassuring, apparently. And so anyways, that's all we've got. Now, this full interview is going to be the next one, so this link will be in the comments. Obviously, this full interview with Boris and them, but just wanted to bring you back because I found this story. Random one from Boulder Weekly. Rumblings of change, December 13th, 2023, as HHS recommends that the DEA reschedule cannabis documents reveal. Say what? I mean, obviously we got redacted documents that don't clearly say this, and so I don't know who this person is or why they think they know this based on what was revealed, but I did just want to share this because I found it. And so it seems a leaked letter between a top official revealed in September that the health department had recommended to the DEA that it reclassify cannabis for Schedule 1 to 3. Now, again, where this guy is claiming this, I don't exactly know. There's a source here. It was the first time a major federal agency recognized cannabis as misclassified. So take from that what you will, but it seems to be a second author boldly claiming that Schedule 3 is confirmed. And I mean, we all hope it is, and we keep hearing it is, but until we get that announcement, we're not going to really believe it. So more here if you wanted to pause to read it, link in the comments, but just thought this was interesting as it was a different, author making the bold claim and trying to talk on that. And so this is, again, that interview, the full interview with Curaleaf's Boris Jordan, 31 minutes in total. So you can grab that link in the comments as well. And so just going to add a little bit more news out of Curaleaf because we got a lot of it, and more MSOs to come, but exclusive interview, Curaleaf CEO talks New York plans. And so obviously Boris did make that call that New York would get wholesale sooner than later, or Curaleaf would get wholesale in New York, much like other MSOs. And sure enough, they did end up getting that. And we're going to get to that story, I think, a little bit later. Mind you, I did not read through this whole thing as I'm not a Curaleaf shareholder, and this was something I added into the video this morning. So just going to share this here if you are interested to learn more about New York and what is going on here. But it seems like they'll get 3 adult use retail locations to start. And then more here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, full link is in the comments. I do apologize. I can't go through every single story. I just try to give you the juice. And, if there's anything in there worth picking up, I'm sure you'll go through it and do so. But with that, another interview with BoJo for anyone that's interested. This is them on their TSX listing, which I believe happened December 14th, which would have been Thursday. And so congrats to them. Obviously, not the results on the TSX that they were expecting right away, but ultimately, I don't know what effect it's going to have until we see some other real big changes. And hopefully there's more coming. A lot of foreshadowing, it seems like. And with that, another interview with Boris on the Higher Exchanges podcast. This one is 1 hour and 3 minutes long. Full disclosure, I have not listened to any of these yet, just besides that 1-minute clip from Boris. I do plan to listen to some later today. I just haven't had the time. All that to say, these resources are for you if you're interested. Links in the comments. And the last one coming up, we've got this one, which I actually featured in my video from last week. I didn't watch it, though, before recording. And after watching it, Boris is, again, changing his tone. All we can do when the people that tell him what's happening continue to change the goalposts. But Boris is saying between now and April for rescheduling. The interview is from today. This is from last week, actually. But this is the Barron's one that I clipped in that video. If you didn't watch it, it's a good listen. But it just kind of highlights that what we thought might happen now, it's kind of more fitting and more likely to happen heading into 4/20/2024, hence why it might have that ring to it. Again, I could be wrong, I don't know, but let me know in the comments if you happen to watch it last week. But on top of that, Boris was also saying late January, early February for SAFE to get some attention in Congress again. But this all would also just line up with Germany actually keeping their word and doing that April 1st, because it seems like US probably wants to do it at the same time that another country might make a big announcement. So then the US can say, oh, we're not the only ones doing it. Right? And so with that, Curaleaf begins adult use wholesale operations in New York. So their select and grassroots brand are now available at legal adult use dispensaries in the Empire State, where people are probably paying 4 times the price that an illicit one will sell cannabis for. But hey, let's hope some New Yorkers are supporting the legal industry there and visiting those 25 or 30 shops, as hopefully more will be opening in the near future, and more will be opening in the near future. We'll get to that story. So full link in the comments if you want to go through all of that, or if you're a Curaleaf shareholder and interested. It's a snippet from an interview between 8th Capital Research Division and Charles Bachtell, CEO of Cresco Labs. And this is just someone in the industry, similar to Boris, sharing what they know based on all their latest information. Always have to caveat the things that involve government decisions and actions take time, and it's out of our control. There's flexibility in timing, but all indications and what we're hearing and seeing from other reports on it is by the end of the year. So again, hearing from Boris next year, hearing from Charles Bachtell this year, we don't know, folks, so plan accordingly for your own situation. But when that flip switches, it's going to happen quick. And he's saying we feel good about it. I mean, he's likely implied that in the past, maybe not said that, but that's what we've got as of now. And so Green Thumb to open Rise Dispensary Port Orange in Florida, its 90th retail location in the nation on December 15th. So Green Thumb continuing to really ramp up in Florida, which we love to see. So more here if you wanted to pause to read and learn about this store and what they're doing there. Full link in the comments if you're interested or a shareholder. Well, this big news out of Alabama. Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission picks 5 companies for integrated licenses. And the good news for, or depending on which company you own, not Verano, and I believe Verano was in the ridings for a previous license, but this time around it seems like Trulieve was the big winner of the MSOs, while 4 other smaller single state operators, maybe, I don't know if they're single state or multi-state operators, but not the main tier 1 or tier 2 MSOs that are publicly listed that we talk about. So hey, big win for Trulieve here. Figured I would share that, and so it's another small market that they're getting first mover advantage in, besides Georgia as well. Well, this was an interview with the Air Wellness CEO, I believe, and so I did want to share this just because I'm an Air Wellness shareholder. I have not watched it yet, but I do plan to watch that later today, and so kind of just keeping it in the comments so I can come back to it. That being said, we'll be in the comments if you want to tune in. Well, from Todd Harrison, we've got an update from Jason Wild, who will not stop buying shares. So more reassurance that something is coming. For any of you that own TerrAscend as well, definitely love to see that the executive chairman of your company either can't or won't stop buying his own stock. It's almost like he's got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell, or buying more shares, I should say. Hopefully you get that old reference from when SNL was funny. But with that, few more research reports before we get to the state news. Pablo Zuanic sharing the latest ZNA equity research for MSO upside scenarios in New York from the 13th of December, and then winning California brands from the 15th. So those will be in the comments below if you want to check those out. Always informative. So thank you, Pablo. And these last ones from TD Cowen. Thank you, Carl Quintanilla, for sharing. And so, hey, if TD Cowen's starting to cover this, Ben Kovler commenting on it, we love to see the exposure. Legal cannabis, now a formidable competitor to alcohol. Over the next 5 years, the cannabis category will add 18 million past month consumers, while alcohol will lose 2 million as consumers increasingly embrace cannabis and temper their alcohol consumption. And again, not a bad thing at all for any society, right? And so we love to see that. And so this is a story from Green Market Report on that TD Cowen snippet. Obviously, all we got was this main little clip here, so but lots more here if you wanted to pause to read to go through it. This top part here, and then sticking with it, a bit more here if you wanted to pause to read. Expected growth. Now, I try to take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? Because we hear them a lot, and it all ultimately depends on things actually happening. But stock conclusions here as well if you want to pause to read. Full link in the comments if you want to go through that. But now I believe we're on to the state news. And so with that, some development out of New York. Thank you, Jeff Schultz, for sharing this. Shitty Office of Cannabis Management. But apparently they've announced that 10 new stores opened this week alone, bringing that total to approximately 40. So good news. Any MSO that is wholesaling in New York is likely wholesaling to 40 retail dispensaries. So good to see that number slowly but surely going up. It doesn't offset the 5,000 illicit ones selling cheaper and unregulated cannabis, but the good news is there are more opening in the coming weeks that are not yet announced. And so between the 460 CAURDs, 15 to 18 registered operators, co-located stores, which are MSOs, or like, you know, the tier 1s, tier 2s we know of, and 2,000 retail applicants who applied with site control, which is a serious financial commitment. If 10% total between these groups can open their doors in the next 12 months, New York should have at least 250 stores open by this time next year. And so, hey, 12 months away isn't that far. This could be really big. And this is just on top of, remember, Pablo sharing those reports. So he'll have a bit more information on what this will look like. So definitely recommend you check that link out along with this. But hey, good news. We love to see that. Well, it seems like the regulated market is at least working a little bit as first rec cannabis product recalled issued in New York. And so a brand I've never heard of, which is likely a smaller mom and pop brand versus a bigger MSO because it's not an MSO being recalled. It just seems like a product was recalled because the lot was not properly tested for consumer safety. And so shows that some of the regulators are doing their jobs and getting an untested or improperly tested product off the shelves until it can properly be tested, showing, hey, that the legal market is slowly but surely getting better and working. But Governor Hochul fumbles the ball and vetoes bills to allow hemp seed in animal feed, calling on state to collect more information on safety. Like, fuck. The irony. Obviously a big L because Hochul doesn't know that the hemp seed is the healthiest seed in all the seed kingdom. I believe the highest amount of protein per pound or whatever, and healthy omega acids with the least amount of bad fats in it too. Hey, the more you know, and also leads anyone to wonder, hey, well, why has hemp seed been illegal for so long then, and why has it been so hard to get our hands on? Another very valid question. So all that to point out, it's too bad, but between you and I'm sure you'd much rather eat, beef from a cow that is eating a mostly hemp seed diet versus corn and whatever shit that they're able to mix in and do it for so cheaply that's currently, feeding animals now. And so more here if you want to pause to read, but if you don't know about the hemp seed, I'd recommend Googling it. It's fascinating and yeah, the healthiest seed in all the plant kingdom. Definitely, more you know. From MJ Biz Daily, Florida could issue 22 more cannabis licenses in the next 6 months, regulator says. Now, we love to hear this because does this lead you to believe that we're going to get adult use on the 2024 ballot most likely, or does it lead you to not believe that? You'd like to think, otherwise they wouldn't need, 22 more licenses. Obviously, the more competition, the better. But apparently this could come in the next 6 months, which I believe means it's setting the stage for 2024 to be on the ballot, or adult use to be on that ballot. Let me know what you think in the comments, but just sharing what the rest of the story has to say. Full link in the comments. Well, I wanted to share this one from OurDetroit.com. 5 years of legal cannabis in Michigan. Looking back as of December 11th, 2023, obviously many great things have come of it. Over $2 billion in sales, consequently $200 million plus in tax revenue. That's, again, hopefully going in the right places and helping everyone coming from the legal industry, not the illicit one, and supporting more than 30,000 jobs, the second most behind any state. So many great things happening down here, but not going to go through the whole thing. Full link in the comments if you want to grab it. Monthly rec sales, then and now, how shit's changed. Love to see Method Man featured on here too. Actually, fuck it, I'll go through it. Calvin Johnson, represent. Wiz Khalifa, sweet, he's got some brands. I guess all these have brands in Michigan too that are killing it. Mike Tyson, Grizz, I've never heard of you. Michigan was the first state in the Midwest to legalize. Boom. Love to see them trend setting and crushing it. Medical only. Neither. And then, yeah, I'm going to move on. But full link in the comments for that one. While Missouri expunges. Again, we can see many states doing great things when they end prohibition. Just comes in chunks, and sadly, it doesn't make the mainstream news. But Missouri expunges 100,000 cannabis offenses in the first year of legalization, even as some courts missed the deadline. So we love to see states working for their citizens and giving them their lives back, especially when they should not have been criminalized for it in the first place. Some more here if you wanted to pause to read. With that, we move on. As Arkansas using medical cannabis taxes to fund free school lunches. I love this. More of this, right? Like my video for this alone, even. I think it's worth it. But love to report as they're using medical cannabis tax revenues to fight food insecurity in the state, with $87 million sent to schools throughout the state to help students access low-cost or free lunches. You need to make money to be able to hand stuff out. That's the reality of it. Can't do that with a model like New York or Connecticut, New Jersey. Open stores. End this nonsense. And then with that, I think I mentioned it earlier, but Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission in turmoil as manager suspended. And so they don't highlight what they're suspended for, right? Sadly, of course. Nonsense. What's the point of even highlighting the story if you can't tell them what they're suspended for? See, it's not news anymore. It's fucking propaganda for the most part, sadly. But so reasons behind remain undisclosed, with the commission declining to comment beyond saying that they do not discuss internal personal matter with anyone else. But, just highlights that in any industry, there could be bad apples, there could be good apples. It's just a matter of holding bad apples accountable and getting them out of positions of power and replacing them with good apples. And so with that, Cannabis Business Times, Illinois governor signs bill waiving cannabis transporter fees. And so as of December 8th, the bill was signed, and so this will go into effect. No annual licensing fees for existing cannabis transporters for 3 years, beginning January 1st, 2024. The only annoying thing is it doesn't tell us how much the licensing fee was, and so how much it's going to save them. But we had to do it to achieve that equity. And know what Pritzker's saying? Well, Pennsylvania lawmakers approved bill to allow more medical cannabis companies to vertically integrate and try and be like the MSOs, I guess. But so sounds like it would allow more of the state's medical cannabis growers and processors to act as retailers, which I imagine would benefit the MSOs as well, and let more of the state's retailers grow and process cannabis. So let's more retailers grow their own stuff to hopefully make more money growing it themselves, and then allows medical growers and processors to sell directly to patients, I believe. So this might be that follow-up bill to what we saw earlier, saying how PA was looking at passing something to allow med growers and processors to sell directly to patients. So this could be that. More information here if you wanted to pause to read, but love to see something that's going to help, again, the medical operators until Pennsylvania does something to launch for legal adult use there. So with that, a bit of Euro news to round it off from Forbes is 2 Dutch cities start selling legal cannabis. a mid-pilot program. And so while the Netherlands has always had a strange relationship with cannabis, when I was there in 2017, I was able to buy illegal cannabis from a legal coffee shop. So who knows? But apparently the Dutch have started their official pilot program, second now behind Switzerland. So pause to read if you're interested. And then hopefully Germany just gets their act together and keeps their word and actually votes on that bill before April 20 of next year. Or early in January, so that they can remove cannabis from their narcotics list April 20 of next year. That would be great. And so last bit though, Canopy growth stock dips on share consolidation. Fundamentals so bad that they needed to announce a 1-for-10 share consolidation to comply with NASDAQ's minimum bid price requirements. And so for anyone that wants me to talk about LPs more, this is the reason I don't, because they're run terribly, they're fundamentally unhealthy. And obviously, if you're looking forward based on what change is likely coming and what the companies are actually doing right now already, the MSOs, many of them are a no-brainer just compared to any of these. The only benefit these have is being on the U.S. major exchanges, which is true. That's why I still own Tilray. I'm not going to cancel that out, but I mean, again, Canopy at these prices, you really think it's only up from here. And so lastly, just wanted to revisit shortdata.ca in hopes that the data was up to date, but it seems like we've only got November 30th and not up to December 15th. And so unfortunately, we don't know what has been, helping keep the prices down in the last 2 weeks since we started in December. But we do know that at least as of November 30th, the shorts were actually reducing their short positions in many of the MSOs, which basically made sense based on what we were seeing in the market, but not Curaleaf. And so, hey, I'm sure they're very happy to get on the TSX because it seemed as of November 30th, they were the ones that were still being heavily shorted besides the rest. And so hopefully maybe in the next few days, we'll get an update based on the December 15th data and we can see what impact that had based on the last 2 weeks. But again, happy to at least highlight that we ended off the week strong and time is still on our side. Do you think we're going to get that scheduling announcement from now until the end of the year, or from now until April 20th, 2024? Let me know in the comments, folks. But that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.